With the 5th overall pick this past offseason, the Detroit Pistons selected Asar Thompson at the wing position. Should he start for the Pistons this upcoming season to start the year, his first year in the NBA? We'll talk about that in today's episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I'm your host, Kuka Hill. You can find me over on Twitter at Kuka Hill. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button. We're on our way to 10,000 subscribers. We crossed 6.1K, I believe, a few days ago. Let's keep it trucking on our way to 10,000 subscribers, or you can obviously leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. And today's episode is brought to you by Birddogs. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA or enter promo code LockedOnNBA for a free white tech hat with any purchase. You won't want to take your Birddogs off, we promise you. Later on in the podcast, we'll talk about the Pistons pick and roll struggles. I made a video breakdown 2 days ago detailing some of the struggles the Pistons have had in the pick and roll and what's causing it, how they can improve it. I'll link that down below if you want to see the full 4-minute breakdown that I did, but we'll talk about that later. And also, is it realistic that Killian Hayes actually can win some rotation minutes if he's still on the team around training camp, opening up the season? We'll talk about that later on as well. But the first question and the first thing I want to talk about is, should Ausar Thompson start? And I'm going to make the argument for why he should start. The Pistons obviously not wasted, that's the absolute worst word to use, not wasted. They used their 5th overall pick on Ausar Thompson. Ausar Thompson was who I wanted before the draft. I don't know why I used the word wasted. But Ausar Thompson is who I wanted before the draft. I was happy that they drafted him. He's obviously now coming into a wing room that I thought was the worst wing room in the NBA this past season, especially on the defensive end. They by far, I don't think it was even close that they had the worst defensive rotation on the wings in the entire NBA this past year. But he's entering a wing room that's going to have Isaiah Livers, Bojan Bogdanovic, Joe Harris, and I guess you could have a few other guys that you might want to slide up to 3 but aren't naturally 3s, whatever. So he's going to be fighting somewhat for some minutes. I don't think he's going to be struggling to get rotation minutes. I think he's definitely getting rotation minutes, but he's going to be fighting for extra minutes, I guess you should say. I think he should start the year in the starting lineup. I think the team would be better this way, and this is my argument here. First thing I'm going to say, there's a few points I have to make this argument. First point is, you hired Monty Williams. You made some, I don't want to say, it wasn't win-now moves, but you went and got some veterans. Joe Harris, Monty Morris. You didn't sign anyone in free agency. You just got those 2 vets to, I guess, shore up the rotation. All we've heard is that the Pistons want to win this year. They want to make a jump. They want to win. Are you serious about that? Are you serious about winning? Are you serious about winning as many games as possible this year? Are you still prioritizing development over winning games? If you're wanting to win immediately, I truly believe that the Pistons' best starting lineup that they can put out that will win the most games, to be the most competitive on the floor, is Cade, Ivy, Asar, Bojan, and Duren. Now, my second point in this is going to kind of contradict this first point. You'll see why. But I think Asar on the wings provides wing defense that they just didn't have last year. They desperately need it, and he's going to provide that. I don't think he's going to be exceptional on defense. It's hard for rookies to come in and immediately be great on defense, immediately be good. It's rare that it happens. Asar looks like the kind of dude that could be one of those rare exceptions because of his rare athleticism and motor. So he could be one of those rare guys, and his body type, length, etc., like all that stuff. He could be one of the rare rookies that actually are good on defense instantly. But they need that on the defensive end. They need athleticism bad on the wings in that starting lineup. They need some guys that can run the floor, get some easy buckets, and he's going to be able to do that. They need some more playmaking. They need some more, again, pushing the ball ahead, who can finish around the rim, grab a rebound, grab a rebound, look up. All the stuff that Asar brings to the table are things they didn't have on the wing last year. And even though he's super raw right now still and has some stuff to improve on, obviously, his raw skill set are all things that the Pistons desperately lack this year. So simply him coming in and playing and having that raw skill set is going to be massive improvements on what the Pistons didn't have last year, I guess. So I think that will be an impact in and of itself. And then Bojan at the 4 continues to provide that spacing that you need with that lineup. One of the best shooters in the entire NBA this past season. You keep him in the starting lineup. Asar rebounded the ball extremely well in Summer League. If you feel like Asar is going to continue to rebound that well, you can get away with this perfectly fine on the defensive end. Rebound really well with him and Duren. And then offensively, again, defensively, Asar helps you on the wing. And then offensively, you can push in transition. You got some better cuts to the rim. You keep the spacing with Bojan. I think it's the best lineup they can put out there. That's the first point. Second point I have is this. The Pistons' defensive rating this past year was 27th in the entire NBA. They had a 117.8 defensive rating. I want you guys to go ahead and take a guess at who had the 3 worst defensive ratings on the Pistons this past year. You can write it in the comment section down below. You can tweet at me. The 3 answers are James Wiseman, Jane Ivey, and Bojan Bogdanovic. If the Pistons do start Ausar Thompson, which I think they should, I've arrived at the point that I think they should start Ausar. It should be heavily considered to just bring Bojan off the bench and have him be the 6th man, because I struggled. While I think that the first point I made, that Asar and Bojan could end up being their starting lineup, the other downfall to it is if you tried out a lineup with Bojan and Jane Ivey both in the same lineup, in the starting lineup, and they both had the worst defensive rating on the team this past year, and the team's defense was awful, and look, if you don't want to listen to the numbers, us just watching the eyes, watched every game of the 82-game season, this 100% matches the eye test. Both of them were their worst defenders on the team. You try out a starting lineup, but both of them in the starting lineup, I feel like you're basically asking to be bad defensively. Like, that's basically what you're doing at that point. So the idea would be we're going to be so good offensively, we're going to go for so many points and provide that spacing that it won't matter. Fair, but I think you got that evidence this past year with Bojan that's not something that's going to happen. Bojan, when he was on the floor for the Pistons this past year, the Pistons offense was 4.6 points better with him on the floor. The only player who had a higher difference offensive rating-wise is Alec Burks. So the Pistons offense was way better with Bojan on the floor. Yes, absolutely. Way, way better with him on the floor. But even despite that, the defense was so bad with him on the floor that he still ended up as a negative on-off difference. He ended up with a minus 0.4 net rating because the defense was worse than the offense. So basically my point is that I don't know if I agree with the idea anymore, or agree with the idea that, hey, we're just going to go with full-on offense. We're going to go offensive here. And the offense that Bojan brings and the offense that Ivy brings are both in the same lineup with Cade Cunningham. It's going to be enough of an offense to make up for whatever the defense is. With Cade coming back, you want to try and make the argument that Cade will make up that difference and then you don't have to worry about the defense. I guess you can make that argument. I'm not going to be the one that makes the argument. I watched what this team's defense looked like this past year. I watched what Bojan looked like on the wings. I watched what Jane Ivey looked like on defense this past year. Having both of them on the floor, I'm not for it. I'm not for it. Without a wing stopper too, the wings are just going to obliterate the Pistons again. This past year, the Pistons, anytime they went against a taller 2 or they went against a wing, they just got shredded. They just got shredded by them. So I'm not in favor of that. I don't think that you could. I think it's highly questionable that you can get away defensively with having both Ivy and Bojan as your 2 and 3s on defense. I think if you can put Asar out there, who figures to be the Pistons' probably best wing defender, I think you can maybe get away with it, because then you have him and his athleticism on the defensive end, his IQ, his field defensively. I think you maybe could get away with it there, and then you have a balance a little bit of defense and offense there. The reason why, by the way, I haven't put Stu in the starting lineup in these ones, because Stu's more of a question offensively. If he's not providing spacing offensively, now you're having Bojan and Ivy on the floor defensively, which is a concern for me. And then offensively, you're not going to have spacing, because if Stu can't shoot, and Stu hasn't improved his outside shot, which is possible he has, but if he hasn't, that question mark, now you're struggling on both ends. I just really don't believe in that starting lineup. Now, you guys, I know you guys have heard me over the summer. I've mentioned that the Pistons' best lineup may end up being Cade, Ivy, Asar, Livers, and Duren. Like, that may end up actually being their best lineup, because that's the best lineup that gives balance to both sides. Asar can play defense, run an offense, play make. Livers can shoot and play defense instead of just shooting, no defense, or defense, no offense. Like, That could end up at the end of this season. I'm telling you guys. You guys are going to think I'm crazy right now. But at the end of this upcoming season, we may look back at their best lineups, and the best one may end up being that lineup. Just remember I said it. But yeah, those are my arguments for why Asar needs to start. Basically, the defense. The defense, this last offseason, and I'll wrap it up with this. Last offseason, I told you guys, I remember it. I said, enough with all the defense stuff. Let's go for more offense. The team's offense has been so bad, I'm tired of watching a trash offense. Let's go a little bit more offensive. They did, and I don't want to ever see it again. Like, I've learned my lesson. The defense was so porous. It was so terrible watching their defense. Like, I don't know if I can handle watching something like that again. I don't think you can get away in the NBA having that bad of a defense. So I had to start Ausar Thompson. If you want to start Bojan next to him, go ahead. If you want to, bring up Bojan off the bench and then start Stu, if you're really that big of a Stu fan, go ahead. You better hope Stu can shoot threes. I truly believe that the best lineup might end up being by the end of the year, the Asar and Livers lineup. But if it was me, if I was Monty Williams heading into the season, I would probably start Cade, Ivy, Asar, Bojan, and Duren and take the balance of wing defense, the spacing from Bojan. You can run in transition with Ivy and Asar on the wings, Cade leading it. You got someone in Asar who can take the rebound and go. He can help you on the glass. You don't have to worry about someone not helping you on the glass or really getting active on there. I think that lineup might be their best option to start the year for the Pistons. So let me know what you guys think about that. Comment section down below or over on Twitter at Cougar Hill. Should the Pistons start Ausar Thompson right out the gate? Let me know. Again, comment section down below or over on Twitter at Cougar Hill. When we come back, I want to talk about the Pistons' pick and roll struggles this past season and what led to it. We'll talk about that when we come back. But first, I've got to tell you guys about one of our sponsors, Birddogs. Birddogs make you look good. They stretch. Khaki shorts are designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and leg, giving you a truly sculpted look. Birddogs shorts do the exact same thing as Lululemon, but fit way better. They fit way better than regular shorts that are made of stiff, restricting cotton. Birddogs fixed this issue by inventing cloud knit fabric that looks just like khakis, but stretches so you get a way slimmer fit without having to sacrifice all of the movement. Birddogs uses anti-stink, sweat-wicking fabric that keeps you cool and dry all day long. I promise you guys, they're extremely comfortable. You'll look good. You'll feel good. All of the above. Birddogs are absolutely the right place to go, the right kind of shorts to go get. Feel absolutely amazing. So go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA or enter promo code LockedOnNBA for a free white tech hat. That's birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA or promo code LockedOnNBA for a free white tech hat. You won't want to take your bird dogs off. We promise you. Again, that is birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA, promo code LockedOnNBA for a free white tech hat when you purchase or go with Bird Dogs. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. So yesterday, I said 2 days ago in the intro or in the first segment, by the time you guys listen to this on the 22nd, I made this breakdown on the 21st. So I was just, in the off season, this is what I do. If you guys have been listening for the past 2 years, this is what I do every off season. I just go through, I start looking up stats, I start watching clips, I start watching videos, rewatch some games, and try to, really dive into the Pistons season in different ways. And one of the things I thought was interesting that I saw, and I think I've mentioned this one other time, I think, in this past off season, but I didn't really dive into it. I was on Synergy, and the Pistons' most used play type this past season on offense was pick and roll. They ran the third most pick and rolls in the entire NBA this past season, according to Synergy. They had a third most percentage of possessions that ended in were pick and roll offense. Pistons were third again. So they ran the hell out of pick and rolls, ran it a ton. But they were 29th in efficiency, 0.82 points per possession. That's pretty horrific. To be one of the teams, the top 3 teams, if you went just total possessions, they were second. But if you went percentage of possessions, they were third. To be one of the top 3 teams that run the most of that play type, but then be basically the worst at running it, that's horrific. That is terrible. To be that high in usage and that bad at running it, it's a horrible mix. Absolutely horrible mix. Now, my question wasn't just to, or my objective wasn't just to look at the number or tweet it out or tell you guys and be like, oh, yeah, look, the Pistons sucked at this. Okay, now on to the next thing. I wanted to figure out, okay, why were they so bad in pick and rolls this past season? Well, there's two answers, I think. One, obviously, the Pistons pick and roll ball handlers have to get better. So getting Cade Cunningham back definitely is going to help this. Do I think it's going to solve it? No, because the second point I think is just as important. But getting Cade back, you won't be 29th, okay? You won't be 29th in the NBA in points per possession in efficiency in pick and rolls with Cade around. You might not be top half. You might not even be top 20, but you won't be the second worst. So Cade will make it better. Jaden Ivey has to get better in pick and roll. He has to. Now, you saw him get a little bit better as the season progressed towards the end of the year. You saw him get a little bit better, but he's not great at it yet. I don't know if I would even say he's good at it yet. He went from bad to getting better and better and better and believing that he's eventually going to be good because you could see the progression. But I wouldn't say he's right now good at pick and rolls. I think he's just better than he was at the beginning of the year, according to NBA standards. If Killian Hayes, this past year, he was one of their main ball handlers. He was not very good in pick and roll. He'd have to improve, even though we'll talk about him later in the podcast if he's actually even going to play minutes. But if he were to have been playing minutes, he'd have to get better in pick and roll. Now, they got Monty Morris, who should help this a little bit as well, too. So the play, basically, is what I'm saying is the play of the pick and roll ball handlers has to get better. They have to become better scorers out of pick and roll. They have to become better passers out of pick and roll. A lot of it does fall on them. So that's one of the main things or the main reasons why the Pistons struggled. Again, it's not the only reason. It's not the only reason. I think there's an argument to be made that it may not even have been the biggest reason why they were so bad in defend or in pick and roll. And just to buffer the point with Monty Morris was in the 83rd percentile as a pick and roll ball handler. So he's definitely going to show up and help the Pistons in that department. Pick and roll ball handlers, they have to get better. But the next thing that has to get better, if the Pistons want to run heavy pick and roll and they want to become a better pick and roll team, something they have to do, they have to have better spacing. Better spacing. Say it with me, everybody. Better spacing. You cannot run pick and rolls if you don't have any spacing on the floor. And this past season, the Detroit Pistons, according to Synergy, ranked 20th in the NBA in points per possession on spot-ups. They had 0.99 points per possession for the Detroit Pistons. The Pistons had 0.99 points per possession on spot-ups. Overall three-point percentage, they were 22nd in the entire NBA. Along with this, there was a lot of lines that the Pistons ran that I would say just weren't that functional on offense. The double big stuff just isn't going to work. It just isn't. It doesn't provide spacing. Playing multiple guys on the floor together that can't shoot, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to do so like that. And I went in with this breakdown and broke down what I was talking about here. Now, I can't play the video for you guys, obviously, for those of you guys listening on the podcast version, you guys won't be able to see it anyways. But on YouTube, can't play it for you guys. So I'm going to link it down below. For those of you guys listening on the podcast versions, look me up on Twitter. If you're not following me already, go follow me at Kuka Hill. And you guys will see it on my Twitter. I tweeted it out, video breakdown. It's a 4-minute breakdown. I think it's a really good one. You guys should go check it out. But for those of you guys on YouTube, I'll link it down in the description below. But I'll try to go through these plays and describe it to you guys the best possible way. So the first play I broke down was at the beginning of the year. I used Cade, Ivey, and Killing since all three of them were the Pistons ball handlers this past year. So I wanted to use an example of each guy. So in the first play I broke down, Cade Cunningham got the ball at the top of the key against the Oklahoma City Thunder. And he's going to run a pick and roll with Isaiah Stewart. In the left corner, on the weak side corner, is going to be Hamidou Diallo. Bojan Bogdanovic, is going to be on the left wing. Jaden Ivey is going to be over in the right corner. So you have, hypothetically, a spaced floor. But because Diallo is not respected as a shooter at all, his defender is sitting in the paint as they're running the pick and roll. Now, Cade ends up taking a pull-up midi that he probably should have made. But the point of the video that I wanted to break down was the spacing, not the actual shot they got out of it, It just was the spacing, because that's not something you're going to be able to regularly do against NBA defenses and get away with it. You're just not going to have a functional pick and roll offense if that's what the coverage that you're looking at every possession. If your coverage and what you're getting out of the pick and roll every single time is a dribble, pull up, long two, you're just not going to have a efficient offense. It's because part of it is because of what I'm showing here. Now, I'll give you guys a little bit of a basketball lesson here. For those of you guys who don't know, the weak side defender's responsibility is always the tag down. Well, not always, but usually is the tag on the roller to the rim, especially if they have great gravity. Now, I don't know if they would really tag that hard on Isaiah Stewart rolling to the rim, but Jalen Duren running to the rim, rolling to the rim, they're definitely going to be tagging down on it. What I'm saying is there's a difference between tagging down and Cade making the quick read while they're tagging and getting it to the corner, and them just not tagging it. They're just sitting in the paint waiting for the roller because they don't care about what the corner guy's doing. So that spacing right there is just bad. It's just bad. And to take you through the options here, the Pistons, Cade could have drove and then kicked to Diallo in the corner. Is that a good shot for the Pistons offense? No. So even if you kick out to this open guy in the corner, it doesn't matter. The pick and roll numbers are going to be trash because you're not getting good shots out of it. So it's either Cade takes a long two here, which he got through because Stu set a good screen. But let's say he doesn't get this pick and roll long two here going. He's trying to get to the rim. The dump off's not going to be there. The layup's not going to be there. And his only option is going to be to kick out to a Hamidou Diallo from the corner. That's not going to be a good shot for the Pistons. Instead, if they had someone in the corner who could shoot threes on this specific play, you could kick out to that corner shot. If they want to tag that hard, you get a good shot for a good three-point shooter. They probably aren't tagging that hard down on the roller. Cade can get all the way to the rim, or maybe he can dump it off the Stu on the layup. So that's what happens with the spaced out offense. That's the first example I used with Cade Cunningham. The next play I used was with Killian Hayes. This is at the end of the game, or at the end of the year with the Miami Heat. He's going to run a pick and roll with Jalen Duren on the left wing. He's going to come off this pick and roll. He's driving towards the middle, going to his left. And as he gets into the paint, he got Amarui in the corner. He got Ronnie Magruder on the left wing and Jaden Ivey above the break. Ivey's providing enough spacing. Magruder's providing enough spacing. But Amarui in the corner provides zero spacing. I kid you not, Kevin Love never even acknowledges him in the corner. Kevin Love is sitting in the paint underneath the rim with his hands up. Amarui is not a good three-point shooter. Again, it's the same thing with the first example. You could kick out to Amarui in the corner, but is that going to become a good offense? Because Amarui can't shoot. So now in this play, Killian does make this floater. He makes a floater from around the dotted line, but that's not good offense. It's not a good system. It's not a good pick and roll rep because you're not the gravity that Duren has going to the rim, you're not really being able to take advantage of it. Because if someone wants to tag down that hard on a Duren roll, because if you don't tag, the lob's there, he's just going to dunk on you. You're supposed to be taking advantage of his gravity. And when he rolls to the rim, the guy's tagging down should have to pay for tagging down, and you're kicking out to a shooter. And now you're getting good offense over and over and over. You see how that pick and roll goes. If they don't tag down, you can either get a layup or you're lobbing it up or you're getting all the way to the rim. If they do tag down, you need your ball handler to be able to make that pass out to whoever's tagging down and be able to get that shot. It's very easy. Basketball's an easy game, okay? It's an easy game to read here. But in this play, again, Amarui's in the corner, on the weak side corner, and Kevin Love's just ignoring him. And now they end up, the Miami Heat, with three guys sitting in the paint, and the Pistons have nowhere to go but a floater. Now, yes, Killian made this one, but that's not the point. It's not offense that you can repeat over and over and over against NBA defenses. That's why the Pistons were so bad in pick and roll. Yes, their ball handlers have to get better, but functional lineups have to get better, and the spacing has to get better. The spacing has to get better. Okay, and then the final clip that we're going to talk about, this is a longer segment, I apologize. But the final segment, this is going to be Jaden Ivey running a pick and roll, or kind of like a DHO pick and roll, with Jalen Duren at the top of the key. You got Isaiah Livers on the left wing. He got Killian Hayes. He has Killian Hayes on the right corner. And then he has Marvin Bagley in the left weak side corner. As Jaden Ivey rolls down to the rim, again, this one's going to end up in a made bucket because the shot was goaltended. So Ivey's going to get a bucket here because Segun goaltended. But again, the point of this is the way this pick and roll looks is not repeatable. You're not going to be able to continually do this. As Jaden Ivey comes downhill, he has an advantage on KPJ here. But before he even passes the three-point line, I wish I could just screen grab this shot right here. Before he even passes the three-point line, Jabari Smith, who's guarding Marvin Bagley in the weak side corner, is already in the paint waiting for him. So even if Ivy beats KPJ here, he has another defender waiting for him at the rim. It makes it for harder finishes by the ball handler. It takes away the possibility of a lob or a bounce pass to the roller. It makes it just really tough here. And I will say this, Bagley does a fine job of countering this. If you're not a shooter, the best way to try to counter this is then eat the space. Don't just sit in the corner. You got to try to eat that space. Now, Bagley does cut down from the sideline and tries to eat up that space towards the rim. So if Jabari Smith were to rotate over, Ivy could just drop it off to Bagley, and Bagley could try to get a dunk off. That's the best way to counter it. But also, you could just have a shooter over there, and you could just kick it out for a three, and now you got 3 points. Or you're probably not getting tagged down that hard if there's a good three-point shooter over there. Jabari Smith's not going to be leaving Bojan or Joe Harris or whoever. Isaiah Livers over in the corner. He's not going to be leaving them wide open. If they do, you're getting 3 points off. So that's why I think the Pistons pick-and-roll offense was so bad this past season. Yes. Do I think their ball handlers have to get better? Absolutely. They have to become better scorers and passers out of the pick-and-roll. But they also need good spacing around them. And they need higher IQ players around them. They need guys, if you're not a good spacer and they're running multiple guys out there that can't shoot, eat up that space. You have to eat that space up. You sitting at that corner spot and you're just not even going to shoot the three because you don't like shooting threes, it makes no sense. It's just a waste of a man out there. And honestly, just put a shooter out there for the love of God, man. It's 2023. Put a shooter out there. Space the floor and actually trust your guys to hit shots and actually hit the shots. Your offense will look way better. Basketball's a simple game. So that was a very long segment. I apologize for that. If you guys want to check out the breakdown, you guys can see it 4 straight minutes without having to deal with me trying to break it down on the podcast. If you guys didn't like that, I apologize. I think I did a good job of it, though. You guys can find the breakdown on Twitter at Cougar Hill or in the description down below. When we come back, we'll touch just very quickly, just very quickly. Can Killian Hayes actually win rotation minutes this upcoming season? We'll talk about that when we come back. But first, you guys got to hear from some of our lovely sponsors. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We're free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons, hit that subscribe button, or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. So I was reading James Edwards' article last week. I believe it was a mailbag. And I believe his last 2 articles have had this question, or he's talked about, can Killian Hayes win minutes in the rotation? Is Killian Hayes going to be on the roster to start the year? What minutes is he fighting for? And then I read the Pistons mailbag by Keith Langlis, and he talked about how, there's going to be minutes for Killian Hayes to try to fight for and actually win if he's actually improved. He can win some minutes on the wings or at the 2 position, or they can play him on he can be like the 3 on defense and the guard on offense, like all that stuff. And then we had James in the podcast last week as well, and me and him discussed this and talked about it. So I just want to give my thoughts on it, my full thoughts real quick on it. Do I think Killian Hayes can win minutes this upcoming season? No. I think that's not possible. This is not an actual battle in their backcourt. I don't think it's the same thing for Sasser too. I don't think Sasser is battling I don't think he's winning minutes versus Monty or Alec Burks. Now, if they would have went and acquired a younger dude who is maybe a little bit better, but is also someone that you're going to let them compete with to try to get the backup spot, okay, then yeah, maybe. You don't go get Monty Morris for him to fight for minutes with Killian Hayes or Marcus Sasser. You don't keep Alec Burks so he can fight for minutes against Marcus Sasser or Killian Hayes. So I don't see how either of them, to be honest, how they're in a battle. This is not a battle. They have those minutes. Monty Morris and Alec Burks, those minutes are secured. It is what it is. So the only other way Killian Hayes could get minutes if he's taking minutes away from someone at the 3. That's not happening either. Monty Morris, Alec Burks, Ausar Thompson, probably is going to be the backup 3 with Isaiah Livers and then Jalen Duren. What minutes is he taking? So I just want to give my quick thoughts on that. I told you it wasn't going to be a long segment. I keep seeing a few people around the Pistons. Now, James hasn't. I believe when James was on, he said he also sees it as a struggle for him to find minutes. But if he were to improve, really deserve minutes, then he would find minutes. I think he said something like that on the podcast. I don't want to say exactly what. I don't want to try to quote him. But basically what I'm saying is I've seen a few people around the Pistons say, oh, well, if Killian actually gets better, he'll get minutes. He'll win some minutes. No, I don't think that's even a possibility. Even if Killian improves how I want him to improve as someone who believes in Killian, or if you want to replace Killian again with Marcus Sasser, if Marcus Sasser actually has worked that 25th pick without a trade, these are not guys, these players that are at the backup 1 and 2 spots, those are not guys you're unseating. Those are not guys who are coming into a training camp for the second or the worst team in the NBA this past year fighting for minutes. Like, that's not happening. Alec Burks is not fighting for his rotation life. Monty Morris is not fighting for his rotation life. Like, come on. It's not happening. There's no rotation minutes to win here. There's no real battle going on with the backcourt. The backcourt's set. The backcourt's set. And all the other talk, I feel like, is just nonsense. It's just a waste of time. The Pistons have their backcourt. Monty Morris, Alec Burks. There are 3 positions locked up, Bojan and Asar. Like, they already have, their rotation is basically set. The rotation is basically set. So, no, I don't think that Killian Hayes can win rotation minutes. And for the more important guy that I'm sure all of you guys care more about is Marcus Sasser. If you want to see Marcus Sasser play this upcoming season, the Pistons need to trade one of their guards. Like, Monty Morris, Alec Burks needs to go at some point during the season. I don't see Marcus Sasser unseating one of those vets that could be playing for a contender off the bench. They're not going to accept coming off just not playing for the worst team in the NBA. Like, come on. It's not happening. So that's it. That's what I wanted to end the podcast with. Just wanted to touch on it real quickly. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comment section down below or over on Twitter at Kukiyo. That's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. Free and available on all your podcast platforms. Hit that subscribe button to the YouTube channel. Leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Stay safe. Until next time, peace out.